here. I'll try and read.
Hello, we are live. Good afternoon, everyone. Hello, happy Friday if you're joining us live, and if you're watching on the replay, thank you so much for joining. I can see that we've got somebody on already. This popped up as we were in the green room from Pratik. I hope I'm pronouncing that correctly. Pratik.
Yes.
Hi, looking forward to hearing your thoughts, Niharika. Hi, Niharika. How are you doing?
I'm good, thank you. And thank you so much for having me, Sheryl. And happy Friday, everyone. And happy Thanksgiving Black Friday to our friends and family across the US.
Yeah, it's been Thanksgiving. I've been seeing all the Thanksgiving posts, all the posts giving thanks in what is, I guess quite a challenging time globally, but so it's been nice to see all of those. But yes, please do say hello in the comments. Let us know where you're joining from and any questions as well that you've got on the topic of employee resource groups, staff networks, and or any questions specifically around the type of staff network that Niha runs as well. So Niha, thank you so much for joining. How's your week been? Has it been busy? I'm guessing it's been busy, right?
Good, yes. Good, busy, productive, lots to do. I think it seems to be the thing because it's the last month before Christmas and everyone breaks up. So there's a lot to do.
Perfect. So Niharika, I hope I'm pronouncing that correctly. Niharika Khanna, 11 plus years at Serco. So you've been at Serco for a while, quite a long time. And your official job title, Group Ops. Just explain a little bit about what your day job is, because I know some people might be not sure what your day job is. So what's your day job?
Thank you so much. So I basically work in the CEO's team, so our group CEO's team. So Serco is a public sector. We are an impact partner for government, and it's a business to government policy. So the most famous example is the Santander bikes that you might see across London, and we run a bunch of public services in the health, justice and immigration, transport space. I am very fortunate to work in the group CEO's office. So I'm the head of SMS, which is our governance framework, Serco management system, as well as Group Ops Manager. And what does that mean? It's that I do monthly board reporting into our executive committee and PLC board, look after all things governance, which is our policies, framework, standard operating procedures, and so on. And also look after investment committee and key bits that the business does. So that's my day job in terms of where I was hired. And I've had a really interesting journey at Serco over the last 11 years doing a variety of different projects.
Fantastic. So you have a busy day job, as do so many ERG, network leaders. They still have like a busy day job. A few comments here. So hello, everyone that's joined us. So Amelia, so proud of you, Niha. You really are a shining example of being an ERG leader, and I'm truly honoured to be working with you on our ED&I journey. How lovely. It's a lot of love coming in for you, Niha. And then also Shane. Hi all, hope you are well. I'm joining from Essex in the UK. Hello, Shane. I hope you're looking forward to winding down for the weekend. And also we've got Kerry, who said, amazing to see you, Niha.
Thank
so
you.
Niha has some fans. Clearly, you're making an impact as an ERG leader.
They're all lovely. Amelia is the co-chair for at Serco, which is our LGBTQ plus network, and we do a lot of amazing work together in the Inclusion Collective. And Kerry is an ex-Serco employee who is a very core member of our Serco Embrace team. So we miss you. We've done fantastic work together.
Amazing. And tell us about the network that you lead, as well as other networks. I know, especially, as Serco obviously is a massive global organization. So, how many other types of different networks are there? And then what is the network that you lead, Niha?
Absolutely. Thank you, Sheryl. So I lead Serco Embrace, which is our race, ethnicity, and culture network. So our mission is to focus on making sure that Serco is a great place to work for everyone, irrespective of their race, ethnicity, culture, and background, and everyone feels welcome. Overall, we have 6 employee resource groups, ERGs as they're known, or staff networks, and together we're called the Inclusion Collective. And we vary from a variety of, so at Serco, which is the LGBTQ plus network, Serco Vets, and Parents and Carers, which are our new 2 networks launched this year. And our other networks are Serco Inspire, which is inspiring women and focusing on gender diversity, as well as Serco Unlimited, focusing on disability and special needs. And we've all been doing great work together over the last few years. And I've been working as a founding member of Serco Embrace for over 5 years, and currently chairs. So
fantastic. And really interesting there, because you've got a really, broad spectrum of networks as well.
yeah,
Thank you, Laughing, for your comment. And I love your name, Laughing. So proud of everything you do, Niharika. Keep shining. You are the best. Great to see you talking about the new networks that you've had formed in the
yeah,
last year. I think you said the parents and
yeah,
carers, which is great. I think that's one that we're seeing a lot more at organisations. Tell us
absolutely.
about some of the other things that, because your network is award winning.
It is.
It's an award winning
We are very Serco and proud, as the hashtag
network.
goes.
Was it Serco and Proud?
Yes,
I
hashtag
love
Serco
that.
and proud.
Hashtag Serco and Proud. That will be the takeaway for this LinkedIn Live. So I
Yeah,
came across you because we met as a result of the Black Talent Awards. Did
absolutely.
you want to tell us a little bit about that in terms of, why it's been so important for Serco to be involved in that as a headline sponsor?
Thank you. Yes, so we have been very privileged to be a part of the inaugural Black Talent Awards last year, which was held at the Edgbaston Stadium. And thank you so much to Denise Myers and yourself for, bringing us on board, as well as this year. So Circle have been headline sponsors for the last 2 years, and Black Talent Awards is essential to us because we are very keen to ensure that Black talent is promoted and recognized across the business and across the country, really across the UK. And I think what Denise and you have put together in terms of the BTA is an absolutely amazing night of celebration. So many people getting together, a fantastic glittering awards night, but also recognizing people who are doing a lot of great work in their day jobs, but also outside of it to raise awareness around inclusion, diversity, equity, but also a lot of people who are, self-employed, who are entrepreneurs and are making a big difference, and in the charity sector. So I think it's really essential for us also as an organization that works in the public services to ensure that we are supporting the next generation of talent, and especially the Black community.
Absolutely, yeah. And shout out to Denise Myers, the founder
Yeah,
of the Black Talent Awards. Yeah, and I know that if Denise were on, she'd say, Serco, along with our other headline sponsors as well, but Serco has been so involved. Sometimes I think people see awards and they see like a headline sponsor's name, and they just assume that that sponsor is just throwing money at it. And ticking a box maybe almost, but
yeah,
it's just been great working with you and other key members of the Serco team. Caroline is so hands-on, and Sally, etc. Yeah, it's been brilliant. And hashtag Serco and Proud. That's one of my takeaways from this live.
yeah.
So Tansy, I had to look on my LinkedIn. So Tansy Cox said hashtag Serco and Proud. I love it. And then
Yeah.
also we've got Dawn Page as well.
Thank
Hashtag
you.
Serco and Proud.
All key
And
members of our team. So
members of the ERG. Well done, well done. And also, so part of the ethnicity awards as well. You were award winning in that, and then you've also got the business and community race at work charter. So tell us something about why you feel it is important to get involved in those awards and get that recognition. Maybe just talk to us a little bit about that.
absolutely. So, I'd like to think a lot of them happen to us, which is a good sign that our good work is being recognized. So we at Serco Embrace have been working really hard to raise, awareness, cultural awareness, as well as the fact that people from minority ethnic communities should be represented in supporting their career progression. And we did a lot of great work during the period of 2020 and 2021, which was also in addition to the global movement that went around after the unfortunate killing of George Floyd. So there was a lot of, I think globally, there was a lot of focus on Black Lives Matter, but also on raising diversity, equity, and inclusion on the corporate agenda, as well as it was the topic that everyone has really been, giving a lot of attention, and rightly so, over the last few years. And as a part of that, we at Serco have gone from almost a brand new network 5 years ago to one of the most award-winning networks. And we're very privileged to have been awarded a couple of Serco Pulse Awards, which is like Serco's Oscars or internal awards for all of our work during 2020 and 21, because despite the pandemic and everyone working remotely, but also we are a very operationally frontline focused business. So a lot of our colleagues were showing up every single day at the front line and making sure that we could deliver our services and, provide public services. And last year, year, we were recognized by the Ethnicity Awards as a top 10 employee resource group and across the UK. And that's been fantastic in terms of recognizing, because they have seen evidence of all of our work over the last few years, how we've built our membership base. But also the fact is we have done a lot even internally in terms of, so one thing is raising cultural awareness and inclusion and making people feel a sense of belonging. But we have also moved the dial in terms of capturing ethnicity data. So even across the UK, we have massively managed to close the data gap. And at this point of time, we have about 80% of our colleagues, we know from which race, ethnicity, culture background they come. And this is a voluntary disclosure that people have made and they're comfortable to, which basically enables us to support their career progression journey. Because once we know that, where people are from and if they need any kind of mentoring programs. And we at Serco have also, in fact, put together a couple of years ago a co-mentoring program where we selected 20 individuals and we put together senior leaders and people who are progressing through early stages of their career and coming from absolutely different gender, race, ethnicity backgrounds so that they can learn from one another. And, the senior leaders can learn a little bit more about the journey of people who are starting off or at mid-management level and vice versa.
I love that, and the thing about the data, which is so important, which we'll possibly get into that. We've got a lot of comments and support coming through for you today, Niha. So from Ukti, I hope I'm pronouncing that correctly, or Yukti, amazing, Niharika. And we've got Stephlin who says #BTA family, still grateful and humbled. Niha was looking as gorgeous in red that night as she is today. #Serco and proud.
Thank you. That's right.
And then let me see if I can just get the name of this one. Fantastic to see Serco women leaders rising through intersectionally. Nice. Well done for showcasing all of these achievements, Niha. That was Karen Hans. That comment there. Fantastic to see Serco women leaders. Yeah, I love
Karen's done sorry, I was just going to give a shout out to Karen as well. So I'm currently on the Serco Women in Leadership program with Oxford Said Business School, and Karen is the program director, and she's been fantastic in taking a bunch of us and we have actually 4 ERG leaders on the current cohort of Women in Leadership, and we've been discussing intersectionality from women diversity as well as our respective journeys.
Yeah, and the data, as you said, I remember an initial call way back with, I can't remember exactly who was on the call, but it was about, when Serco were interested in the Black Talent Awards, and we were grilling you over the data, and you were so strong on it, and it really sort of shone through in terms of, because especially when you're such a large organization, you've got to get into the data to make sure that your interventions are being targeted in the right way, right? A comment there from Showhit as well. Great to hear, Niharika. One of the things that we've almost passed over, well, I want to come back to it because obviously your network is the multicultural network. So much love. We're not going to even get through the questions. It's just going to be
let's get through the questions. We'll come to the comments later.
Amazing leader and role model. She's the backbone of Serco Embrace. Inspiring.
Taz is fantastic. Taz has been my co-chair and rock through Serco Embrace. So
fantastic. So tell us about, you describe yourself as a third culture kid, and this probably links into the ERG Leader training, because it's a term that I heard a few years ago. I think when I was on Clubhouse app. That's for another LinkedIn
Clubhouse. Miss it now.
Yeah. Oh, I didn't know you were a Clubhouse person. Anyway, we'll say that.
We'll come to that later. Yeah.
Tell us about third culture kid for people that haven't heard that definition.
Yes.
And that maybe links us to the training, because it was something that you and one of the other individuals on the ERG Leader training
absolutely
had in common. You use this term, so tell us about it.
Yes, a third culture kid, and definitely not a kid, but a young working professional now. But I've had the privilege of, so I'm originally from India, Indian ethnic origins, was born actually in Delhi, but I grew up in the Middle East, in Oman. So my parents live in Muscat and have been expats out there for nearly 40 years. So I grew up in the Middle East in Oman and then spent some time in Dubai and moved to the UK about 14 years ago. And now I'm a British Asian citizen, as they say. So I got my British citizenship a couple of years ago when I was living here. and moved here for uni and started working at Serco ever since. I have been around. So I think it's really interesting because the third culture kid is that you tend to grow up in a third culture, which is a second or third culture effectively away from home. So home away from home. So a lot of times when people ask me, so where are you from? I'm like, how long do you have? Because the answer depends on that. Because home is everywhere. Like now when I'll go away for my Christmas holidays, I will tend to go to India, Oman, and Dubai. And that's just a typical, year-end holiday for me, which I'm very grateful for. And I know it's a privilege. But I think what does tend to bring forward is that I always grew up in a multicultural environment. I always was brought across in situations and scenarios where I could experience being with people from different cultures, learn from them. The thought of diversity that really comes from when you come across people who are from a different background from yourself, but you have to deal with it in terms of overcome any kind of unconscious bias. But I think the beauty of it is that basically if you grew up in such a multicultural environment and or if you haven't had that opportunity, but you are open-minded and approach it with, just any kind of no judgment. So that's basically where you come in terms of learning. And I think that's something that has really driven my passion in the diversity and inclusion space and helps me run the ERG at Serco as well.
I love it. Third culture kid. I would say, if anybody hasn't heard of it, and maybe this is the first time you're hearing that term, maybe Google it. And interesting, some of the countries that you mentioned there, some of the countries or regions, Dubai, for example, in 2 weeks' time, I think it is, I've got somebody on this from Dubai, because Dubai is such an interesting case study in diversity and a melting pot, and also the journey actually of equity and equality and what that looks like. And in terms of gender equality, for example, it's a fascinating case study. So in a couple of weeks' time, I'm talking to somebody.
Dubai is 90% expats and 10% locals from when I last remember. So that's just a melting point of cultures as well.
Yeah, absolutely. Some of your, so let's talk about how you juggle. What are some of the ways that you use to sort of manage your time and manage your stress levels when you've got so much on, day job, development as a leader, managing people, etc. And then you've also got network responsibilities. How do you manage that?
Thank you. It is challenging. I'm not going to lie. But I think what we have at Serco is also a great support system to enable us to get through this. But so for those who don't know, most employee resource group networks are a voluntary position, and it is in addition to your day job. So you tend to do it on the side of your day job. But the organization has been very kind to give us time commitment and responsibilities, and the support that we need in terms of running DE&I, because it is top of board agenda as well as a priority for the business. So what we tend to do is we also have support in terms of network supervision from Jamie Broadley, who's our head of wellbeing. We recently had Corinne Griffiths, who we also came across through the Black Talent Awards conference, actually come in and run one of our inclusion network days just in London a couple of weeks ago. And that was really good in terms of focusing on mindfulness, but also in terms of how can you, as an ERG leader, what is the key priorities you should focus on in terms of avoiding burnout. But I think what also actually did help in terms of personally with the Serco Embrace journey was that we had our peak in terms of when we were building the foundation of it during the course of the COVID lockdown. And to be honest, everyone was remote working and super passionate about this. And you need a dream team to make this work. And I've had multiple really good colleagues, as a part of the Serco Embrace core committee. And I think that has really helped where we were able to put in a lot of the extra hours of the day, because I do think that a lot of people were actually, there was nowhere to go. We were all in lockdown. So we put in all of our extra passion into Embrace and building the network. And at this point of time, we have now taken a more rebalanced approach because we are an established network. And the focus is more around key milestones. So selecting about 3 key milestones a year and raising awareness around others. And less is more. So making sure that, when you do something, you do it well, rather than, just hosting a fireside chat every other month just for the sake of it.
Yeah, I love that. I think that's so key. The less is more, and having those specific milestones. I think this is something we talked about, the planning, having those milestones. Now, I guess, is when a lot of networks are now planning for next year. So not over committing, and over promising, especially as you say, because so many people often are doing this voluntary. Although I'm on a mission to make sure that people have this in their personal objectives, and their bonus objectives and things like that.
Yeah.
We've got a question here from Ukti. I hope I'm pronouncing that correctly. If I'm not, please put the phonetics in the comments, Ukti, and then I'll correct. So how does one build a wide and inclusive network as a third culture kid?
I think that's a great question, Ukti, and thank you, and hi for showing. Thanks for showing up. So I think as a third culture kid, as I was just mentioning, I've had the privilege of seeing a lot of diversity around me while growing up. So, for instance, one of the things that we brought together at Serco was Pass the Fast during the month of Ramadan, and I grew up in the Middle East, which is an Islamic country, and I have always had friends and colleagues and people I went to school with, fasting for Ramadan, and there were things where we would go for iftar parties and understand a lot more about Eid and the festivals. And at Serco, for instance, at Embrace, we have been raising awareness around all religious and multicultural festivals. But recently around the time of Ramadan, because a lot of colleagues actually originally, when they were in the organization, would probably just for the fear of judgment, not actually acknowledge that they were fasting for Ramadan. And I think when we started raising a lot more awareness, whether it's via Yammer or fireside chats, inclusion moments, so we tend to run inclusion moments at the beginning of meetings, and share a lot more information. So we actually asked our colleagues to fast for a day as an ally. So if you're a non-Muslim, you could still fast to support your Muslim colleagues who are fasting for Ramadan, to literally share the lived experience. And then we actually captured people's responses to say, how did that feel for you? How did you manage doing your day job as well as fasting for Ramadan if you haven't ever done it before? And a lot of our colleagues are also on the front line, so they are serving, in the prisons, say as prison custody officers and so on. And I think that was a very humbling and bringing people together experience, because one of our colleagues actually fasted for 21 days after having never fasted her entire life. And I think it's things like these that, when we share lived experiences and journeys together, then you have a lot more empathy for your colleagues, and that really helps build a sense of inclusion and belonging.
That's brilliant. That's brilliant. Thank you for that question, Ukti. And also some of the things that you mentioned there just gave a hint into some of the tools and things that you use to manage the network and drive engagement. Because you mentioned a Yammer channel, for example.
Yes.
So some organizations use Slack, some use Yammer, there are all sorts of tools. But those tools that are always there where people can talk, I think definitely help to drive the engagement. One question I've got for you is actually, which I hope I'm not springing it on you, but you mentioned about frontline, engaging with frontline colleagues and employees. And this is one area that a lot of employee resource groups often struggle, because not all colleagues have, for example, access to email or whatever it might be. So has that something that you've always done as a network, or is it something that you had to kind of consciously make an effort to make sure that those frontline teams are engaged?
So I think we have done a great push on frontline engagement over the last couple of years. Because, to be fair, when we started our journey very early on, we were thrown into a pandemic, so it wasn't as safe for everyone to be out and about. But in terms of even, for instance, I can give you a couple of examples from earlier this year. We have actually done a lot more in terms of contract site visits and hosting our milestone events at contract sites versus, so we definitely do the virtual fireside chat so that everyone who has access to Teams, so that's something we use the Microsoft Suite, can dial in an accessibility device that helps a lot of people globally come across. But personally, for instance, I have also been at HMP Thameside, which is one of the prisons we run in London, just a couple of months ago, and we ran a staff network day. So all the 6 ERGs, we had representation, and we had all of our employees from there, come in. So we were there for the day, and we had individual stands sharing information about our networks, and almost like a show and tell, and you can come and learn a bit more. Likewise, at London Cycle Hire earlier this year, we've hosted World Cultural Day of Diversity, where people brought in, I think, over 35 or 40 different kinds of foods and cuisines from their different, backgrounds. And it was really nice to see people coming together to break bread, share lived experience, and say, oh, this was my grandmom's recipe. Oh, my dad's actually lived in that country, so I used to have this at home while growing up. So I think there's a lot of that tends to be where we are now making that very conscious effort over the last couple of years, because about 80% of Serco staff is on the front line. So we have been going out to contracts. I was even co-hosting with for Pride Month in June at HMP at the Portsmouth Naval Base, where we ran a Rainbow Roadshow, and we ran a safe space session in terms of talking to people and their shared lived experiences. So I think that's become something that would be a tip for any organizations looking to engage with people who aren't online all the time?
Yeah, absolutely. Do you know what? And hi, Nzinga, thank you for joining us. But I can tell why your network is award winning, because engaging with frontline staff, that's almost like the holy grail of staff networks. That's where a lot of staff networks struggle. And I love what you were saying there, because actually what it sounds like you're doing is almost like, rather than waiting, for example, for the technology to catch up with it, you're going out. You're going out to the front line, which is great anyway, isn't it, for head office, colleagues to head out into the front line and actually engage with people where they are. So, that's absolutely perfect. And a comment here from Amelia: can't wait to have Embrace involved in next year's Rainbow Roadshow. Yeah, so the intersectionality and working with ERGs. Hashtag Serco and proud, of course. Amazing. What were we talked about the third culture kid? Were there any takeaways from? So obviously we did the you're on thank you again for being on cohort 1 of the ERG Leader training. Did you have any other takeaways from that?
Yeah, absolutely. Firstly, thank you for having me on your inaugural cohort. I think it was really helpful. And I think the sessions were really well structured, as you did. But the key takeaway also was that in terms of how can you actually connect with other ERG leaders across the globe. So you very kindly had also Ralph across from the US, and we had Zibot Chwe. And I think it was really good to see how other organizations are also running their employee resource groups and what is it that we can learn, because I think we all have common challenges, but also opportunities in terms of how we can best develop this. And I think what was really helpful was also the fact that we spoke about executive leadership and sponsors and how we can get buy-in from them. So that's something that I would highly recommend to people who are looking to join your next year's ERG Leaders cohort.
Yes.
So highly recommend it.
Absolutely. Thank you, Niha. And then that links on nicely, actually, because we did. I talk a lot about senior leadership buy-in for staff networks and ERGs. It really does open doors and makes your work so much easier. So I guess my question would be, how important have you found that, for the Embrace network, that sponsorship and the senior leadership support?
Absolutely. So I think it's very essential to have buy-in from the top, because it really helps you have a very clear vision in terms of where you want to take the network, because we effectively run it like a business in a strategic plan. What has been really helpful for us is so Mark Irvin, who is our group CEO, has been our global executive sponsor for Serco Embrace, and he's been really closely involved from the beginning in terms of giving us a sense of direction on where we can take this. And Mark has also very fortunately had a very multicultural experience and worked really across the globe. In fact, he's moved over from us back to UK a couple of years ago. And I think what that really helped us was, so we did end up signing up to the Race at Work Charter, which is a part of the business in the community. And we are our external partners, our business in the community. So that was essential, again, given the buy-in from the top. And we also have Sheila Marji as our executive leadership sponsor for UK&E. And she's come on board this year. And it's really helpful to have that perspective, because again, Sheila has a multi-ethnic background from India, Australia, now living in the UK. And I think also definitely make sure that your sponsors are challenging, which I think we find is really good, because they can bring together that level of critical thinking. And they're also your voice in all the boardrooms and the executive committee meetings. So it helps you bring the subject to the table when you need it.
Yeah, fantastic. It is key, and I think it was something that was consistent really across all of the attendees. And people have different ways of doing it, and sponsorship sometimes sits in different at different levels. It could be like yours is literally right at the top of the organization. It could be still within the C-suite, or it might be within HR or wherever. But just as long as we have something. A really interesting point and question here from Nzinga. So cultural day and shared experiences are great, but they can feel tokenistic when marginalized people aren't getting access to promotions and opportunities. So how can people who are not part of ERGs prioritize EDI? And how I'd phrase that with you, Niha, is maybe in terms of the breadth of what you do as an ERG, how are you tackling things like, access to opportunities, etc., for anybody, whether or not they are part of the ERG?
Absolutely.
Great question.
So thank you for that question. I think so as I mentioned earlier, we also launched the co-mentoring program. So that was again an opportunity for people who are not part of the ERGs, but actually selecting people who would be interested in, progressing their career opportunities and fast tracking talent. There is also a lot in terms of making sure that the recruitment processes are diverse and inclusive. So anonymizing the CVs, diverse interview and recruitment panels. So that's something that when you are making sure whether it's an internal promotion and or you're recruiting somebody, that you actually do have access to people who are, look and feel different, so that you have no unconscious bias over there. But also in terms of reach out and ask people. So even if you're not part of an ERG, reach out and ask people who are role models to you in terms of if they would be happy to mentor you, if they would be happy to coach you. Because I think if you do ask anyone, they would genuinely, coming from a place of goodness, actually be able to help you out. And I think it is one of those things that find your network within the organization, but you also have a lot of access to people via platforms like LinkedIn and other such communities where you can actually reach out and say, okay, so you have actually broken the glass ceiling or the barrier. How did you do this? And is that something you can potentially help me with? So I think there is an opportunity for people to actually progress, because the world is becoming a more inclusive environment. That's where we are trying to move in terms of making a positive impact. And at the end of the day, if it's a two-way stream. So, look for the opportunity, but also look for the guidance.
Yeah. No, really, really good answer there. And also, I'd probably just add into that as well that, ERGs obviously are there for the benefits of the people, the members that come along to the ERG meetings, but also, for the wider organisation, should be drawing benefit from what the ERG does. So it's as you say, Nzinga, it's more than just, the days and the shared experience and creating that sense of belonging for the people that are in the RG. That's one of the benefits, but it does also have these wider benefits, at least if it's done well. Certainly at the start it may feel just like, oh, it's really good for us to get together and it's not just me here and all of that. But as the ERGs mature, they should be making sure that it's benefiting, other individuals, whether or not they're part of the ERG, and then also the wider organisation as well. So thank you for that really good question, Nzinga. Going on to some of the final questions now. So, what have been some of the biggest learnings in terms of running the staff network from your perspective, Niha?
Yeah, I think the key focus has been firstly on making sure that people can bring their whole self to work. So, being authentic, being vulnerable, and making sure that you feel a sense of belonging in the workplace. So that's kind of the main passion and driver, to ensure that as an employee resource group leader, we are able to ensure that our people feel welcome and feel that they have equal opportunities to progress in the workplace. So I think running that as an ERG leader has been a really interesting experience in terms of how do you run that. So that's been one of the greatest learnings. Provide a safe space for people to air their opinions. So we have actually been running a few safe space sessions at Serco Embrace, given different topics, as well as the wider ERGs across Serco, where it's a safe space where people can come and talk. There's nothing being recorded, but you can anonymize feedback and then pass it on to the people team or the HR team, and action is taken on that in terms of how we can help progress the journey. And I think celebrate your people, and celebrate wins, which are big or small. So it's brilliant to we're very grateful to have all the awards, but what's also very grateful is when people say, I feel seen. I feel that you have been celebrating Diwali, Eid, Passover, Easter, Ramadan. Those are festivals that don't usually coincide with big major holidays, i.e. Christmas and New Year. So the fact that people can celebrate that and be their authentic self, as well as the fact that people can just have that sense of community in the workplace. Because what has happened as a part of at least Serco Embrace for me and my colleagues is it's brought us together as people who are passionate about a certain topic, and it really helps us, outside of our day jobs as well, have that safe space and sense of community. So that passion takes you, the dream team really takes you far, and I think that passion is a shared passion and goal, because at the end of the day, all of us are doing this because we want to make a positive change and impact.
Absolutely. Teamwork makes the dream work, right?
Yes,
and
absolutely.
Just picking up on something that you said there, because it's a thread that I've heard, particularly with certain types of networks, but things like creating creating channels where people can feed things in anonymously. So creating those safe spaces, particularly if you know, if you're in a place that isn't maybe that inclusive, you know, you're starting from that sort of place in terms of for some of the organizations that are listening, you know, creating those channels where those stories can be heard and people can hear that, okay, you know, if something's not working right and I need to raise something, I've actually got this anonymous channel over here, can actually be really powerful. And it's something that a lot of the ERGs are behind. Some ERGs even have anonymous membership, as in people in the organisation don't know who's a member of the ERG, which I think is interesting, particularly for the sort of pride and LGBTQ networks sometimes as well. So wrapping up with almost our final question now, what tips would you give to fellow ERG leaders?
Yeah.
Final
So I
tip.
would say definitely build your core committee team with people who are very passionate about the subject, because that's what's going to take you far. At the end of the day, this is done in addition to the day job. But build a team with people who have a diverse skill set as well. So bring in people who are program managers, someone who can do events, communications, marketing, senior stakeholder management, data analytics, and so on. And then delegate responsibility and empower them, give them the autonomy to like lead their individual work streams and bring it all together, because many hands makes work light. And at the end of the day, this will actually take you many miles further, because we all are busy in terms of our regular programming, but you need to, still deliver your key milestone moments. I mean, we've been running Black History Month for 5 years, and it's fantastic. We love it. We've been doing lots of different events for it, but it all comes together with the dream team. So that's something that make sure you have the right people, but this will actually also help people. We actively encourage people to join Embrace, also to develop skill sets which are outside of their normal day-to-day job, because it's something that they can use on their CV and take forward for their further opportunities. So if it's something, I remember talking to a few recent grads who joined our team, and they said, well, my day job is in, say, business development, but I love doing something which is design and marketing and comms. So that's like my side hustle. So it's like, why come on board, like design our next Black History Month poster, and do our World Culture Day cookbook, where people are contributing recipes from different parts of the world, and we put together this incredible Serco's World Kitchen Cookbook and circulated it. And it was all put together by a couple of very young grads who were super passionate about it. So I'll bring together people from different parts of the business. Have a clear sense of purpose. So your vision is really, really important in terms of making sure that you know what you're delivering to. We have regular check-ins with our executive sponsors, with the wider Inclusion Collective, and also lean into other people who are in that part of the business. So whether it's your co-chair, so intersectionality is a really big thing. And I wanted to make sure that we cover that, because at Serco, for instance, as well, we have been working greatly with the wider Inclusion Collective and fellow ERGs this year, and there is a lot you can learn, whether it's from your gender diversity team or the Parents and Carers Network, Inspire, and so on. And because at the end of the day, all of us are intersectional, even as humans. We aren't just one lens, right? So I am an Asian origin female, different generation, and there are people who might be, say, Muslim female, neurodivergent parent. So you don't just particularly choose one employee resource group. You can fall into multiple or feel that you relate with quite a few of them. And I think network with your fellow diversity and inclusion professionals across. So we have tons of great opportunities, whether it's through events like the Black Talent Award, which was fantastically hosted. Most recently, David McQueen hosted the Brave Leadership Summit last week, which I attended in London, and that was fantastic. And we saw lots of other DE&I professionals, and it was really good to share that lived experience and journey as well, in terms of how we can challenge the status quo and make sure that we are progressing on the DE&I agenda globally. And last but not the least, take the time to rest and recover, because what does tend to happen is that burnout is inevitable at some point in normal day jobs, but also more so in ERG, because it does impact your emotional well-being. It's not just a business start at the end of the day. The fact that you pour in so much into it and it's all around you, you can't just switch off, because you might log off from your ERG, but you'll read the news and there'll be something that's happening across the globe. And there are lots of movements and not some really good news as well, right, across the world. So just make sure that you take the time to rest and recover, because you can only pour in when you feel rejuvenated yourself. So.
Absolutely. Yeah. You can't pour from an empty cup.
Yes.
As I always hear, you have to be filled up. And that emotional resilience is so important.
Yeah.
So many good tips there, Niha. You talked about having what I call it a power team, those key skills, whether it be comms, a little bit of design and marketing and IT and all of those things that really can help to to sort of lighten the load. But it's really about working with other people and having a good team in the ERG that help to keep those things alive. So thank you so much, Niha, and for all of the other the other members of the ERG team that are on supporting. I think you're doing absolutely amazing things at Serco, and it's great to see. You're obviously one of the more mature ERG staff network. So I think people can definitely learn a lot from looking at how you've gotten to where you are. So yeah, thank you again, Niha.
No, thank you ever so much, Sheryl, for having me, and look forward to working together again and
You're
chatting
welcome.
more. Thank
Perfect.
you.
All right. Thank you, everybody that was listening.
Yeah, thank you, everyone, for joining in, for your very kind comments. And if you do have any questions around ERG, just my personal lived experience, or would like to chat more, please feel free to reach out via LinkedIn or connect otherwise. Thank you.
Perfect. Thank you very much, Shane. And if anybody else is interested in the ERG Leader training that we were talking about, please, drop me a DM. There'll be it's already out there, but it's kind of like in secret because I'm trying to keep the numbers manageable. But yeah, thanks for joining. Have an amazing weekend, everybody. Take care. Goodbye.
Thank you. Bye.